The goal is to keep the goal the goal. So many people get sidetracked. They get a plan that's working and they get sidetracked by this bright, shiny object over here. They try a new diet, they try a new plan. Success is boring in any field in life. Start small. A lot of people tell you think big, think small. What can you do that's like so simple, you would almost have to try not to do it? You can do something called a 5, 6, 7. You can do this for any area of your life as well. So when we talk about habits, it's about 3 letters, A-I-R. Attention, intentions, and repetition. So if you continue to put your attention on those intentions, your 5, 6, 7, and then you repeat the process, the habit that you're trying to form, right? Because you're gonna get stressed. You have this, it gets you back on track much quicker. Everybody sit nice and tall in your chair. You guys have been sitting majority of the past couple of days, I imagine. We're gonna do a couple deep breaths. So when you do this, you're gonna breathe in through the nose. Now when you breathe in, your belly should expand. When you breathe out, I want you to breathe out through your mouth. We're gonna do 5 of these. And just notice if your state changes from this moment to about 30 seconds from now. So let's go 5 breaths, breathe in, out through the mouth. And that should relax you. You could change your state very quickly when you're breathing, just through your breathing, I should say. So we'll touch a little bit on that when I go over the fitness component. So that's me. That's actually a picture on the top of Mount Washington. We climbed Mount Washington, which is in New Hampshire, the past 4 years. I'm deathly afraid of heights, and that's why I keep going back. The first year I had a freak out on the side of the mountain, literally went into freeze mode, wound up making it through that part. You know, we're using ice picks and you see the drop off and all that, but I go back. But it was cool because we got up there. I had no idea that my beard froze. And people were like, man, that's awesome. But we're gonna wake up the brain. So we just relax the body. With your pen and paper, I want you to draw those 9 dots. I'm gonna give you about 30 seconds. I want you to connect the 9 dots with 4 straight lines without retracing. See if you can do it without taking the pen off of the paper. You got 30 seconds. And let's stop. So I'll show you the answer in a second. I want you to start thinking about the question as well. How fascinated or attracted are your customers and clients by you right now? There's your answer. Did anybody get that? Got 1 over there. 2. Very good. Just shows you the way the mind works. Nobody said you had to stay within the dots. So it's thinking outside of the box. It's a lot of what I do and what I teach people. The agenda, we're gonna go over personal fitness, as Charles said. Your health is your wealth. That's the most important thing. Once you lose that, nothing else matters. We're gonna touch on that. We're gonna go over some mind mapping stuff, clarity for yourself and clarity on who you're serving. It's very powerful stuff. And then going over personal branding, how to do that on a local level or scaling it if you wanna scale it. It's gonna be about 50 to 55 minutes. And then I'll do questions at the end. So personal fitness, we need to determine why first. Why do you want to be in better shape? Why do you want to stay in good shape? Fitness is the ultimate status symbol. It's not something you can buy. You've got to put in the work. A lot of other stuff you can buy. You know right away when you see somebody or a client sees you, they could tell just by looking at you how disciplined you are, what your mindset is. So it's the ultimate status symbol. The first impression goes along with that. Whether people admit it or not, they size you up the first time they see you. And energy. Energy is the greatest asset we have as human beings. Your fitness will determine your level of energy. One thing with your fitness, I want you to keep in mind, the goal is to keep the goal the goal. So many people get sidetracked. They get a plan that's working, then they get sidetracked by this bright, shiny object over here. They try a new diet, they try a new plan. Success is boring in any field in life. First thing I want you to do, write down one fitness goal you have for 2025. We're gonna do something called a 5, 6, 7. And you can do this for any area of your life as well. So write down one fitness goal that you have. Maybe it's losing a certain amount of weight, putting on a certain amount of muscle, performance goal. So next to that, you can write the number 1. Now this little game here, this 5, 6, 7 game, we're doing this with speed. I don't want you to overthink this. So if your goal was to lose 20 pounds, I would say, why do you want to lose that 20 pounds? That would be number 2. You write that down. You're going to go until you get the 5th, 6th, and 7th answer. I'm going to give you 40 seconds. Again, I want speed on this. Go ahead. Keep asking yourself why. Yes? Yes, so whatever you have is number 1. Why do you want to do that? That's number 2. Number 3 would be, why number 2? Keep going down the rabbit hole. Peel back the layers of the onion. All right, and some of the stuff I go over with you, you might have to continue. You might want to think more on this stuff. So now you got your 5, 6, 7. Those are the deeper reasons behind why you're doing what you're doing. So if you want to lose 50 pounds, it's not about losing the 50 pounds. People have goals like that all the time, but they fail to achieve it. What's the deeper reason behind that? So when we talk about habits, it's about 3 letters, AIR, attention, intentions, and repetition. So if you continue to put your attention on those intentions, your 5, 6, 7, and then you repeat the process, the habit that you're trying to form, right? Because you're going to get stressed. You're going to get knocked off track. If you have this, it gets you back on track much quicker. So that's the first thing with fitness. Second thing, you're going to write down about 5 bullet points. Think of this as your recipe for fitness. What does it mean to you? I'll give you an example. Last time I competed in a bodybuilding show, I was working with a therapist, right? Because sometimes competing would put me into a dark place afterwards, right? Body image issues, all this type of stuff. So I came up with my definition. It was like energy, mindset good, no pain in my joints, good endurance, feeling strong, right? So I want you to write down 5 parts of your fitness recipe. How do you know that you're fit? Go ahead and write that down. What are 5 ingredients to your personal recipe to know that you are fit? All right, good. So going back to that therapist I was working with, after the contest that year, did 2 shows in 2014, started falling into that trap, right, that I had to be ripped and I had to look a certain way. What saved me was I had this written down. Nowhere on my personal list was how lean I was, how ripped I looked. And it really saved me. I just reviewed a list. I said, nowhere on there is anything about being lean or ripped. So that's powerful, and that ties back into what I told you. The goal is to keep the goal the goal. And think about when you're 80, 90, God willing. What are you going to want then as far as your fitness? How are you going to want to be able to perform? And start training and gearing your fitness towards that. Now, some of the biggest mistakes I'm going to cover for you with fitness. The way the mind works, sometimes you might not know the right thing to do, but if you know what to avoid and what doesn't work, that's very powerful to get you on the right track. So you're working in the wrong model. This really applies to people that diet and that want to lose weight. So you have 2 things, the way the brain works. You can have like an oscillating system, so that image with the band tied around the guy's waist. He goes one way, right? He's overweight, so he diets. Well, what happens? The tension on the band gets stronger over here. Snaps him back. He's hungry, so he eats. Then he goes back the other way. And you got to realize when we're making a change, any type of change, it's emotional. So if you see the other model there, something happens, maybe you have a heart scare, some type of health scare, I'm going to die. You take action. You lose weight. You get comfortable. Take less action. You gain weight. This is a vicious cycle. People play in the wrong model. You'll never succeed in that model. That's why diets have a 99% failure rate. Everybody in here, I can pretty much guarantee, has probably dieted before. And the way I determine if it worked is if you kept the results. If you didn't keep the results, it did not work. It was just a temporary change. With mind mapping, again, this applies to anything. Your brain will not form a habit around anything that you don't find pleasurable to do, okay? Which means if you're using a lot of willpower, you're not going to form a habit around that. Willpower is very finite, the part of your brain that it's located in. By the end of the day, it's spent. It replenishes when you sleep. That's why people have great intentions in the morning. By the time the night comes, they're binge eating, they're stress eating, they're skipping their workout. So you need a little bit of willpower at the beginning. So always use that question. Am I enjoying this process? Or you got to find pleasure in what you're doing. So don't work in the wrong model. 2 other mistakes. Calories in, calories out. Everybody plays this game. A 99% failure rate. People want to simplify it and say, okay, the body is just this math equation. Let me burn calories, cut calories. We've all done it. It got to the point when I was really competing heavily, I would have to eat 1,500 calories a day. For a pretty big guy, that's not a lot of food. I was stuck, I was trapped. If I would go above that, I would get fat. And it was very frustrating because this is my field and I couldn't figure it out, right? Calories are a secondary or tertiary factor. They're not the primary factor when it comes to changing your body. And something about metabolic rate, a lot of people talk about that. That can go up or down 40%. It'll kind of match what you're putting in. So if you cut, metabolic rate slows down. You stop losing. You cut more, it comes down. Meanwhile, your hunger hormones are going up. So you're working in that oscillating system. So it's not the primary thing. Junk cardio, that ties into it as well. Let me burn more calories. So if you're doing like the treadmill and you're doing the Stairmaster and you're thinking that you're burning this body fat, the more you do that, the more efficient your body gets at utilizing body fat as an energy source, which sounds good on the surface. If your car got more efficient at using gasoline, it uses less of it. So it actually trains your body and it upregulates the fat storing enzymes. Cardio is great if you do it for the right reasons. Walking will lower your stress hormones. It could be very peaceful. But break this mentality of you got to burn, or you got to cut and burn. And if you're going to do cardio as most people think of it, get outside and do it, even in the winter. The cold air is very good for your lungs to breathe that in. So get outside, get some sunlight, get some fresh air, make it enjoyable. So planting the seed with fitness. At the end, I'll tell you guys a little bit about a fasting challenge. Some of you guys have already started doing it in here that I run. But start fasting. So what is fasting? Right? That's really what my passion is with fitness these days. I've been doing it for the past 10 years. You're not eating as frequently. It comes down to a hormone called insulin. Every time you guys eat, insulin's released. Even if you're eating clean, you're in a deficit, if insulin's released, you can't lose weight. Insulin tells your body to store and to hold on to. Insulin is the most anabolic hormone, which means growth in your body. So if you do this right, you could use that anabolic factor to go to the muscle cells rather than the fat cells. So start fasting, whether you cut out a meal. And think about this too, guys. You're all busy. If you're eating like most Americans, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe some snacks. If you just cut out breakfast and lunch, by the time you prep that, you eat, you stop what you were doing, you clean up, you start what you're doing. It's about an hour of time before you get back into productive mode. Took out 2 of those a day, that's 14 a week. It's about 56 to 60 hours a month you're getting back of time. Time's the only thing we don't get back. So there's so many other benefits to it as well. And start walking outside, like I said, daily. Lowers your stress hormones. The same center of your brain where emotions come out of. So if you're anxious, you're angry, you're fearful, go for a 10-minute walk. The same center is used for movement that the emotions come out of. You kind of rob that part of your brain of energy. So real simple things you can start with. You got New Year's coming up. Don't set a resolution where you have to go with massive action. That does not work. It goes against how the brain works. It's very intense for a short period of time. You'll burn out. Start with the simple stuff, and then you build. Let it happen organically. All right, now moving on to some mind map stuff. Clarity. Your brain needs clarity to proceed. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. It needs prediction and response with anything. Prediction and response. It likes that. So think if you were going to a party at your best friend's house. You know who's going to be there, you know the setting, you know the environment. Feel pretty good. Let's say you're going somewhere you've never been, you don't know anybody. Lack of clarity. So think back to examples in your life. So we need clarity with everything. So first thing, Freeze mode. People usually don't talk about this when it comes to the stress response. People talk about fight or flight. There's also freeze mode. And I want you to realize every stress, most of it for us is psychological. Your brain and your body react as if it was a physical threat. So if you ever see somebody that's got like a real hard beer belly, that's visceral fat. It's when your body packs fat down around the organs. It's a stress response. Your body wants to protect those organs from this incoming stress, even though it's up here. So cool little graphic here to see if you're in freeze mode. This is usually what happens to people because you usually can't run from the situation in life. You usually can't fight it. So what happens, people start having less drive. It's harder to get up in the morning. You don't feel like doing anything. Freeze mode is what shows up usually with the stress response. If we have clarity, you can get out of that freeze mode. So self-focus. I want you to write down, where do you lack, it doesn't matter what area of your life, where do you lack clarity right now? What's something that's been weighing on your mind? Where do you lack clarity? Go ahead, write that down. Realize this too. If you look at the timeline of life, past, present, future, anxiety, fear, worry, they're all future-based thoughts. There's something called the anxiety gap. The further out into the future you think, the less prediction response you have, the more anxiety is going to go up. Overwhelm, however it shows up for you. So you got to bring it back close to the present moment. So with whatever you wrote down, now I want you to write down, what is the next simplest step? Not point A to Z. What is step number B? Go ahead and write that down. With the thing that you lack clarity on. Maybe it's a phone call you have to make, somebody you got to look up, a book you have to read, something you got to learn. Write that down. You got to bring the thinking back closer to the present moment. What's the next step with that thing that you lack clarity on? One other thing for yourself, you can set a goal, whether it's a financial goal, set that and then work backwards, right? So point Z, start working back. Know the next step, each step of the way. Because again, the brain doesn't like A to Z. There's too many unknowns in there. Too many unknowns. If you guys start feeling some of these negative emotions, ask yourself that question. Where do I lack clarity right now? What am I focused on right now? Everything shows up in your mind as a mental image. It's a picture. That's the way the brain works. Everything is a picture. If you're feeling off, what am I focused on right now? There's a picture in your head that you've been holding consistently that's making you feel that way. And once you start practicing that, you could change that mental image instantaneously. So your client, this is important too. Knowing your client, know who you're speaking to. I know with fitness, my primary avatar, the primary person that I deal with is fathers that are entrepreneurs in their 40s. Why? Because that's me. That's my friends. That's my brothers. I know these answers, these things, right? So if you look through these questions, and I'll make sure Charles can send these out to you guys. What keeps them awake at night? What is your client worried about? So if you know that, what do you have to do? You show up, you solve that question. What are they afraid of? What or who are they angry at? What are their top 3 daily frustrations? If you guys take the time to figure this stuff out, you can speak their language. You'll blow everybody else out of the water that's competing for their attention. What trends are occurring in their business or their life? What do they secretly, ardently desire most? I'm sure they want to look good for their clients. They want to be the superhero for their family. Help them do that. Is there a built-in bias to the way they make decisions? Do they have their own language? Who else is selling them something similar? Who else has tried selling them something, and how has that failed? So for what we do for my online brand, we have like a 10-page packet with very detailed answers to all this stuff. We know exactly who the avatar is. So I run a program at the gym that I'll be bringing online. It's called Rip Dads. That's what Charles did way back in the day. Rip Dad's program. And when I was writing the sales copy and the marketing for all that, the avatar I had in my mind at that point was Al Bundy. That's who I was speaking to, right? So it was very clear. It wasn't just this general person. It's like, okay, this guy's struggling with this. He's beaten down at home. He's working a job he doesn't like. So take the time to do this stuff. Always find out where they lack clarity. Don't assume because you know the product, you know the next step that they do. I've made that mistake many times. Ask them, are you clear on everything? What aren't you clear on? How can I help you understand this more? Get into their mind. If you answer those questions, you will know, they'll think you're like mind reading them. So very powerful stuff. All right, now part 3, I'm going to spend the most time on. So part 3 is about really building your personal brand. You might say, well, I don't really have any interest in that. This is how I wound up here, right? I did it on a local level. Charles found me, right? So you can do this stuff on a local level. You become the local authority, the local celebrity. And I'll give you ways to do that. And the number one asset that anybody can build right now with social media and the way things are going is your personal brand. So how do you become the movie star of your life? So one of the things I like to do just from my own marketing perspective, I love cartoons. I love 80s stuff. I love nostalgic stuff. So you can see some of the cartoons I have my cartoon artist draw up, right? So anything that you create when it comes to your personal brand, you have to find awesome. You've got to like it because it'll show up in the work. It'll show up in the messaging. If you're not having fun doing it, you're like, man, this is awesome. Other people aren't going to like it. Decide what you are. So now you already know, we talked about your avatar. This is the list of who you can be, right? This is who you're going to be to that person. You could be the investigator reporter. That's like Andrew Huberman, if any of you follow him on YouTube or his podcast. He's like an investigative reporter. He reports on research. You could have a radical system or approach in your field. You could be a prophet. You could predict the future by trends that are going on. I highlighted specialist, expert. Those are the ones that get paid the most. Right? Who gets paid more, the general doctor or the best heart surgeon in the world? You want to be the expert. And to be an expert, you only have to know 10% more than the people that you're speaking to be considered an expert. That's it. If you guys read in your field or whatever you're passionate about, if you read an hour a day or 20 pages a day, depends how fast you read. In 5 years, you'd be one of the nation's leading experts in that field. In 7 years, you'd be one of the world's leading experts in that field. Doesn't sound that hard to do, but nobody does it. So an expert status provides you a couple of things. More power, instant credibility. Instant credibility. When you show up and you meet these financial advisors, you put on workshops, we're going to go over that, you put on seminars, you already show up. You have the instant credibility. You don't have to sell yourself as much. Top of mind awareness. We want these people thinking of you. Oh, I've got this issue. Oh, we're going to go to Bob. He's the man for this. I'm going to go to Jill. She knows what she's doing with this. And it's all designed to make you more money. It's going to make you more money. If you guys have certifications, which I'm sure you do, every field does. These are all the certifications. There's more since then that I've had. Some of these, only a handful of people in the world have. You know how many times people ask me when I'm coaching them online or at the gym what certifications I have, where I went to school? It's pretty much zero. What they buy into is my story, the struggles I've had, the struggles that I share with them. So your authority comes more from your personal narrative, and that's what we're going to talk about with building the brand, the story that you're putting out there, than resume, qualifications, or credentials. So if you got to keep them, you stay up to date with them, but realize that's not what's selling people. Influence, so we're really talking about influence, does not happen based on your resume. Stories are the most persuasive thing. If you look at how the brain is wired, you got 3 layers basically. You got the reptile brain, the mammal brain, and then the prefrontal cortex, the human brain. The mammal brain is connection. That's human connection. It's very sensitive to judgment. But that part of your brain is hardwired to take in stories. And it remembers stories. It's the oldest form of passing down information. Stories. To influence, they must be fascinated by you. How are you going to do that with your personal brand? For example, you'll see some slides at the end. Some of you might remember last year, I think I opened up with the slide with a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, right? It's something I've loved since I was a kid, researching that stuff. Now you know what happens? I get people that'll send me Bigfoot stuff in the mail. It means I'm doing it right? What does that have to do with fitness? Or elevating your mindset? Not much, right? But it's influencing people. It stands out a little bit. They must feel that they share common values with you. They must believe that you care about them. This is key. And they must get perceived value from your relationship. So how can you simplify what you're selling them? People do not want complex ideas. Go back to how the brain works. The brain doesn't like that. Complexity is the enemy of execution. How do you simplify what you're selling? What I've done in fitness, I've made it so simple for people to succeed. And what is that brain? That brings a lot of hate towards me. Okay, so if you start doing this and you start simplifying this. I used to be a teacher. I was a phys ed teacher K-4, which was awesome. I loved it. It was the hardest decision I ever made in my life when I stopped doing that to run my gyms full time. I loved teaching the kids, but what it made me do was be able to explain to a second grader or third grader what I was teaching the adults and the athletes at the gym. Still use the same terminology. You should be able to really simplify and break down what you're doing. If you have to be overly complex when you're teaching a new client something, it probably means you don't know the topic as well as you should. Be able to simplify, guys. The establishment is not going to like when you do this. A lot of fields, this field included, the more complex people make it seem, the more dependency the client will have on them. I told people from day one when I started personal training people is I should be able to teach you guys within a month everything you need to know to succeed on your journey. If you want to stay with me after that, that's fine. But I want you to know where you could go to the gym, you could be in the kitchen, and you can do it all on your own. You don't need me. So my formula for expert status, read, watch, study. When you're driving around, think of it as a university on wheels. When you're driving somewhere, leverage that time. Put something on that's for your mindset. Put something on you can learn. Put something on in your field. Put a podcast on that's with an expert in your field. Write. Writing is a great skill. People are getting further and further away from it because of AI. Are you writing a weekly post that you're putting up on social media? Do you have a weekly email that goes out? Charles will tell you, for the past 8-9 years, I write a daily email that goes out, daily, right? And even if people don't read it, as far as being an expert, they're going to see the name in the inbox. And that alone is power, the consistency with that. But writing, it helps you gain clarity over your thoughts as well. Speak and teach. So as soon as I learn something, I try to teach it, whether that's in front of a group or social media or at the gyms or with my children. Teaching is the greatest form of learning that you can do. Something I call direct knowledge is where you experiment for your experience. You can read about something, you can read about what you're doing in your field, but until you've applied it, you don't have the full grasp of it. So you learn something, you apply it. That's direct knowledge. That's direct knowledge and something that you want to develop. So doing it on a local level. Writing a book is not as hard as people make it out to be. If you see that, the book all the way on the right, I ruptured both of my patellar tendons playing basketball. It's a very rare injury. So a couple ways that I leveraged that. First, it was scary because I couldn't find anything about the injury. You know, my leg was mangled. There's about 6 different structures that were torn in there. So I decided, all right, I'm going to document everything, make a book out of it. You know how I made that book? I wrote down 3 bullet points, a couple bullet points under each of those categories. I talked into my phone for about 2 hours. This is back in 2013. Had somebody transcribe it. Now you could have AI transcribe it. And that's that book. And what did that book do? It established me as the world's leading expert in patella tendon ruptures. You might be thinking, well, what's the market for that? There's millions of people a year all over the planet that have that injury, and they feel lost. The other book, the Panda Diet, right? That's my fasting book. Now, I actually sat down and wrote that one. It only took me a month, right? So you get your ideas on paper. Then I had somebody, I hired them on Upwork, organize this for me, make sure it's formatted correctly, proofread it. Done. And the other one, you can look at as like a, if you're not building your email list, that's something you should do because you can directly market to these people every day. How do you do that? You make a lead magnet, something valuable that you can give away for free and they'll give you their information. Could be a special report you put together. Doesn't have to be long. It could be 2-3 pages. Again, simplify. And think of the word author. It's authority. If I handed you a business card or a book, which one's going to have more of an impact? The book, right? So you could, even if nobody reads your book, you could be handing that out when you meet new clients. You elevate in their mind instantly with that. So if I was you, everybody in here, I would make that a goal this year. Write a 20 or 30 page book. And then you self-publish it on Amazon. Like it's really simple to do. So remember, it's not that complex. Start writing it, figure out what you want to do, bring that, we talked about getting clarity, bring it close in. What are you going to write about? What are the 3 main categories of that book? And then you go, you get it done. You can see here, this is when I was speaking here last year. The other ones were speaking at the gym, being the local authority, speaking about fat loss, speaking about heart health. So with the heart health, this is another one, speaking about testosterone therapy for men. Right? There was about 60 guys that showed up for that. Now align yourself with people when you're going to start speaking. That's one of the most powerful things you can do. So, you know, my personal brand, we have a pretty big following now online. Speaking in front of people trumps that. I don't care if it's 2 people in the room, 3 people, 4 people. I gave a talk last week at a local diner. There's about 40, 45 people there. I had more quality leads from that little talk than the hundreds of thousands of people that follow us online. Instant authority, right? People can ask you questions. So have you put on any workshops or seminars in your area? If you've got your region and you're trying to dominate that, and think of who can you link up with. This is Dr. Andre here, right? He's one of the top cardiologists. So I link up with him. So speaking about heart health, it elevates me. The other one, another idea for you guys, these were 5 experts. If you're in fitness, you might know some of them. The top guy is Louis Simmons. He has the strongest gym in the world. He passed a few years ago. The one below him is Dave Osprey, the Bulletproof Coffee guy. So this is back in 2013 as well. I picked 5 experts, paid them for their time, interviewed them, had it transcribed. That's a book. So you got to think outside the box. Think of that first exercise that I gave you guys. Now this too, how are you guys going to promote these local workshops and seminars? This is called an every door direct mail piece. You can send those out through the post office. They've got a thing on their website, USPS. You can send them out for about 17 cents a piece. It shows up, not an envelope, so it stands out. It's big. And you could pick who you want to send it to. You could pick the routes. So you want to put on a workshop, you get an every door direct mail piece, write it up, make sure it looks good, send it out. That's how I promote most of my seminars, is that. Another doctor I linked up with, again, align yourself with people. This is a local urologist. A lot of our clients go to him when they want to get on TRT, testosterone therapy. So I aligned with him to put on a testosterone seminar. Now, talking about content, I'll tell you guys, I'm not a phone guy. My ringer is never on. My phone's always upside down. It drains me. But I knew going into this, when I was going to take the next step to really take my message more to the worldwide, that I was going to have to play that game. So content is king, and it's so easy to put out content. Right? You have all the avenues. We'll talk about which one you should use. Don't try to be on all of them. And then again, what is your goal? If you have 1,000, 1,500 people that follow you and they're all local, and some of those people are ideal clients for you, that's amazing. And I'll tell you how to get in touch with them too. So when you're putting out content, let's say you're on Facebook. Facebook still too, by the way, has the most active users in the world out of any of the social media platforms. 3.5 billion people on there, on Facebook. Everybody thinks Facebook's dead. There's nobody on Facebook. Think of your avatar where they're at. Are they on TikTok or are they on Facebook? Right, you want to show up where they are. To some of the people that just see you, if you're going to start doing this, you're just a fictional character. They might never actually meet you in person. This is why reality TV is so big. People are voyeurs. They like to look into other people's lives. Their lives might be boring. So last night we went out to eat with the new guy. We went to his gym. We have a mutual friend down here. And the guy's got a dynamic personality. Dynamic. He was telling me some of his clients in the area. One of the guys is a billionaire. The other guy just sold his company for $650 million. So he's got these guys, and he's got this gift. He's very energetic. So we're talking at dinner. He said, I really want to do the personal branding, blah, blah. So I've got a little formula I use, right? A lot of times at night, I kind of just do a quick video of what I'm eating. Talk about it. Real simple. Because, that's the type of stuff I have to be doing. I said, take out your phone and do it right now. And he did it. It wasn't hard, right? You're putting up just a little, it doesn't have to do with anything in your field. People are going to bond with you about your family stuff, about the struggles you have, about your workout. You become a real person. And realize, too, that people bond through struggle. If you go on social media like a lot of people do and they try to act like everything's perfect, if you think back to like Superman, everybody knows Superman. When they first came out with the comic, they couldn't figure out why it didn't have the huge viewership that they thought it would have. This all-American guy that was superhuman strength from another planet. And once they analyzed, it was because he didn't have any known weakness. People couldn't connect with him. That's when they developed kryptonite. All of a sudden, it took off. He had a weakness. So think about that. Share your struggles on it. What are you struggling with? Tell that to social media. People will eat that up. So I told you, people are voyeurs by nature. So when you're doing, and we'll go over the different types of content you can do, tell them about some of your thoughts. Don't tell them everything. Tell them about some of your thoughts. Don't tell them everything. Then they're going to start thinking, man, I wonder what he thinks about this. I wonder what he thinks about that. And over time, as you do it, people will start reaching out. Hey, can you talk about this? I want to know what you think about this. I had that happen a few times this week. I live up in the same town Charles does. I had 2 or 3 people reach out this past week asking me to do some content about the drones, if you've been following that. What do I think about the drones? What does it have to do with fitness? Nothing. Every life event you have will bring you closer to your people. If you're going to start a daily email list, you might say, well, where am I going to come up with all the ideas for that? Think of this word, infotainment. Infotainment. People do not just want information. They want to be entertained. So a little bit of information, but entertain them. So if you read my emails, they're like Seinfeld emails. It's just stuff that happens in my life, and I tie it back to my philosophy. And at the end, hey, you need help? Here's my number. You need help? Here's a link. You can buy this that I made. I guarantee you guys all had, like Ray and Pat coming to the workout this morning. That's a piece of content they could use. They could write about that. Maybe they did something new in that workout. Maybe they could say, you know what? They showed up. How'd they stand out this morning? So everything that happens to you, nothing bad ever happens to a content creator. So I think the next picture might be a little graphic, just giving you a heads up. Now it's coming up though, one of my knee pictures. It's coming up. So think of your stack too. It's just like a fingerprint. Everybody has a unique stack. So what does a stack mean? Think about how your expertise was layered. For me, started with bodybuilding, got into that in high school. Strength training, I was obsessed with it. That led to studying nutrition. Which led to, okay, now I have a business. Now I got to learn how to write. At that time, I was writing blog posts. I was writing articles for different websites. That's another great way to put out content. I would write for some of these national websites. I would submit articles and they would put them up. Which led to me studying marketing. It's one of my great passions. It's a natural progression. So you see how this was layered as it went down. Then the knee injury, the patellar tendon ruptures. I did it twice. One time to each knee. Mind mapping. It's always been a passion, the mindset, and I found a guy to teach me this science called mind mapping. I went down the rabbit hole with that. Fasting. It was just a natural progression. My point is, you all have a unique stack. Take time to write that out. That is going to make you different than anybody else in your field. It's going to make you different. It's going to make you stand out. That's what we're talking about, standing out. So one of the things, and you could probably take a picture of this if you want, but that's a way you could come up with different content ideas. It's called a heritage checklist. Your ethnicity, nationality. What were some of your traditions and cultures growing up? What are they still? That's content, guys. Your parents. What did they teach you? What did they not teach you? Everybody knows Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? That whole empire was created by that concept. What did my real dad not teach me? What did my rich dad teach me? Robert Kiyosaki. Other family, childhood, turning points. People of influence that you've had in your life. Assets should be stories of struggle. I told you guys that already. So that's from, I think I did this back in 2011 or 10. It was my original heritage checklist. So I've been studying personal branding way before I really took it national, right? I've been studying this stuff. I love it. I'm passionate about it. So I came up with all these different things that, okay, you might overlook these things. They might not seem like a big deal, your personal heritage list. But you write it out. You write it out, and that gives you your ideas. You want to have a bank of ideas to pull from with your content. And it's not like you're always going to have new stuff to talk about. Like if you look at the stories that I do, it's usually my workout, something I'm reading. What did I eat? I talk to fathers. I do a message to fathers. It's real simple. It's day after day. Consistency is the main thing. So your character. So my beard was longer there. Not being scared to step in who you are as a unique person. For a long time, I'm very introverted. I grew up with 3 brothers. I used to be petrified to go to social events. I just did not fit in. Did not like it. I did not want to be at parties. In college, I would force myself to go out one night a week with my buddies. The other night, I would get some calzones from this place called Deepy Dough, go in my room, watch some movies. That's where I was at peace. And then, probably about only 5 years ago, I started embracing. I'm like, it's okay if I'm weird. That's okay, right? I stepped into who I was as just an individual, and that was liberating. No longer had to try to fit in. It was very freeing. And what did that do? Unintentionally, it made people more attracted to me. Everybody wants to try to fit in. Remember, I talked a little bit about judgment. Your brain is very sensitive to judgment. Everybody's brain is. The reason being, if you go back a couple thousand years, if I judge you, you're in my tribe, we start saying, we don't like him. Let's move him to the outside of the tribe. Now, the outside of the tribe was where you're more likely to get, especially if you're roaming and you're roving, you're more likely to get picked off by a predator or an enemy. And if we judge you so much, we don't like you, we kick you out of the tribe. Your chance for survival goes down. Everything your brain does, it processes with survival first. Public speaking, most people fear it. Why? When you understand this, it's because of the judgment sensor in your brain. All these people are going to have a chance to judge what I'm saying. As soon as you realize it's not life or death, it's okay. So think about that. Your character, what can you do? And that could even go down to what you wear, right? Your outfits. This is my nephrologist, Dr. Mealy. This guy, so he's a doctor, right? He dresses awesome. He stands out. This guy wears purple jackets. He's got the hat. He's got the bow ties. Anywhere you go, this guy's dressed up like this. But he stands out. You put him in a room of doctors, who's going to stand out? This guy. So he leaned into it. So that's a gruesome picture. You can look away if you want. So I want to hammer this point home a little more. That picture in the hospital bed was when they took me from the ambulance, my first patellar tendon rupture. That's what a patellar tendon rupture looks like. It's a very rare thing. For about 2 days, I was really depressed. Right? And it's not like me, but I was in a funk. Again, I couldn't find anything on it, but the silver lining, nothing bad ever happens. Right? It's a story. And your struggles can help people. The more you share your struggles, the more people are going to connect to you. I want to really hammer that home because you have struggles, we all do. You have struggles going on right now. We're always going to have struggles. And struggles are a great thing. If you think about a butterfly when it comes out of the chrysalis, if you cut that open and say, oh, I feel bad for it, I'm going to cut it open, it doesn't develop the wings, it dies. It needs that struggle. The struggles that you guys have, you need. They're serving a purpose for you, whether you realize it or not. You have to figure something out with that struggle. Think about it in the gym. You guys grow through struggle, through resistance training if you want to get bigger. Now, as you go down this path and you're building your personal brand, or you're establishing yourself, right, what you believe in, you're going to get a lot of criticism if you do it right, potentially. I tell my team, we call them trolls. If I don't have trolls on a post or something, I'm doing something wrong. Right? I'm not actively out there seeking out criticism, but if I'm trying to please everybody and not say anything and just trying to be vanilla, that doesn't attract anybody. This was back in COVID. We were one of 2 gyms, both happened to be in New Jersey, in the whole country that opened publicly. And I knew what was going to happen as far as people coming after me. But this all came down to something that you have to develop. You have to all realize that you all have a philosophy. You're all philosophers in the way you live, in the way you do business, the way you are with your family. Most people just never get clear on what that philosophy is. I had a philosophy. I have core values. We have core values as a family. So when I made that decision to do that, without knowing what the authorities were going to do, came down to my core values. And realizing that I was going to do anything for my kids' freedom that I thought was right. Right? But I was not, if I was trying to avoid criticism, that moment that was a huge impact on my family would have never happened. Rich, complex personal narrative. If you guys have HBO Max, a great show to really study this was The Penguin. It just came out. It's a great show. It's a very dark character, but it gives you his origin story. You see how this guy developed. How did he develop into this monster? Rich personal narrative. Okay, so we went over influence. So another thing, right? So there's one of the Bigfoot pictures, Michael Myers. People know that follow me, and even people at the gym. I love Halloween stuff. I love John Carpenter movies. I talk about that stuff. I listen to that. I listen to that music all the time. It puts me in a certain zone. But again, it's something I share with people. Stepping into who you are. These guys, Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, they are, you could say, not the best doctors in the world, probably, right? And a lot of doctors hate on them. They've got this national influence. They're celebrities. They establish themselves as celebrities and they automatically have more authority. Pick a platform, guys. So where are you going to start posting? Don't pick all of them. For you guys, I would say YouTube if you wanted to do long form stuff. Facebook, I think that's where I would probably recommend most people go. And then Instagram. Now, a great way if you want to start doing the local speeches, and maybe you're like, oh man, I don't like talking in front of people. Something I've been doing for years, at least the past decade on Facebook. I go live on Facebook. Doesn't matter if anybody's watching. It's the process of speaking, and there could be a live audience there. It's not me recording and then posting it. So it makes you work on your speaking skills. That's a little like hack that you can do to get better really quickly. Now, as you guys build, again, let's say you get 500 people in your area, right? And some of them are financial advisors, because one of those posts each week or each day, I would talk to them. I had this, you could tell a story about something you dealt with another financial advisor. Work the DMs. These are leads for you guys. Hey, are you here for the content, or are you in this industry? How can I help you? They're right there. All you got to do is reach out to them. So with that post with Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil, self-aggrandizement. This is something that most people are not comfortable with. But you have to get comfortable with this if you want to establish yourself as the expert. If you watch a lot of my old videos and whatnot, I would say, hey, I'm Kyle. I'm the world's leading expert in fasting. I'm Kyle. I'm the world's leading expert in patellar tendon ruptures. Nobody else said it. I said it. And then what happened? People would start saying, oh, you're the world's leading expert in this. Could you help me with this? I want to hire you. When I first got into the field of fitness, my goal was to be the world's leading strength coach, the best strength coach in the world. And then I realized as I studied this, I said, nobody's going to anoint me that. I just have to believe it, and I got to start telling people that. So that's the self-aggrandizement piece. When you're putting your postcards out, you're putting ads out on Facebook to come to your workshop or your seminar. I'm the state's leading expert in this. I'm one of the nation's leading experts in this. Start saying it, but believe it, because you are. All right, couple things before I take questions. If you guys have any questions on fitness, personal branding, that first one, I'll make sure Charles can send it out. You can book a call with me. It's free, okay? The second one, if you want to see how I do my emails with the blue arrow, that's a lead magnet, right? So I'm put together, you lose 7 pounds in 20 days and keep it off, right? So whether you want to do that, that's a great thing, or you just want to see how I do the daily emails, that's another thing that might help you. And some of you were asking me about the fasting and the fitness component. I haven't run one of these in a while. January 6th, I run what's called a Panda Challenge. It's 6 weeks. I teach live on Zoom every week. There's certain fasting protocols, workouts that I take everybody in the group through. And you get serious results. And my whole goal with that is teaching you stuff that you can do forever. I know Tad was telling me before he adopted the stuff I talked about last year. He got the book. It's transformed his body, his health. Right? So if that's something you're interested in, you can get that there. All right, now we got questions. Any questions on fitness, personal branding, any of the mindset stuff, the mind mapping stuff? Anybody have questions on like how to put on a seminar? No questions. Yeah.
So, in your, how do you look at or how do you view when everyone says when forming a habit takes X amount of days? It's like, what, 22 days or something? How do you look at that?
So people will say 21 days. That's at the very short end. It actually takes 66 days on average to form a habit. If you pick something, and here's another thing with habits. If I gave you, and you have to want to do the habit. Remember, that's the key. If you don't want to do the habit, it'll never stick. So if you wanted to do 2 different things, right? If I gave you 2 things to work on, well, if I gave you 1, your chance for success is like 80%. If I give you 2, it drops to about 20%. So be smart with this stuff when you're forming habits, whether it's your fitness or your social media posting or your writing. Start small. Like a lot of people tell you, think big. Think small. What can you do that's like so simple that you would almost have to try not to do it? for it not to get done. If you want to start writing, can you write one sentence a day? Can you make one video a week? And then let it build. If you're not doing anything for your fitness, can you do a 10-minute walk every week? That's the type of people that succeed. And then you build on it. Momentum will carry you. Any other questions, guys? All right, well, I'll be hanging out if you guys have questions that you want to ask me personally. I'll be at dinner with you guys. So thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.